Hello everyone, this is Mohit Singh Katoj, working as Assistant Professor in Civil Engineering Department of Tulsiramji Gaikwad Patil College of Engineering and Technology, Nagpur. I welcome you all in today's lecture of the subject Water and Wastewater Treatment. Today's topic is coagulation and flocculation. So I have divided this video in two parts, part A and part B, seeing the vastness of this topic. So today we are going to cover part A of coagulation and flocculation, which includes basic details of coagulation, various factors which affect coagulation, and different types of coagulants which are used in water treatment. So let us now start with our today's topic, coagulation. So coagulation is a process of mixing or adding certain chemicals in water to form insoluble precipitates for absorbing suspended colloidal matters which are freely moving in the water. So these chemicals which are added are known as coagulants. The finely divided impurities which is not removed in plain sedimentation without longer detention periods is removed using this coagulation process. Coagulation also helps to remove turbidity up to 20 ppm and bacterial load by 70%. Almost 70% bacterial load is removed using this coagulation process. Coagulation is adopted when the turbidity of water is more than 40 ppm. The coagulant produces thick gelatinous precipitate and has the property of arresting and attracting the suspended matter freely moving in the top layer of the water. The flocks possesses positive charge and they attract the impurities which are having negative charge, and in this way flocculation process completes and the flocks becomes heavy and goes in the downward direction and are collected at the bottom of the tank. We saw in the previous slide what coagulation does. Now we will see why coagulation is necessary. So even after the sedimentation process which removes heavy particles, some finely divided particles such as clay and coloring matter are held in suspension and they are not easily removed from water. So these are removed only if their size is increased by using some chemical compounds. Hence, these chemical compounds known as coagulants are added into the water to increase the size of these finely divided particles and create flocks which will become heavier and will settle down at the bottom. So in coagulation, coagulants are added and the particles are made to settle down by neutralization. So the oppositely charged particles are attracted towards the coagulants, as coagulant is having positive charge and impurities are having negative charge, and then the size increases and the flocks settles down at the bottom. So this is about coagulation process. So let us now see what are the various factors which affects the coagulation process. So the very first factor which affects the coagulation is the dose of coagulant. How much coagulant chemical we are adding into the water, it directly affects the coagulation process. Next is type of coagulant. Which coagulant we are adding? Are we adding alum? Are we adding chlorinated copperas, magnesium carbonate, polyelectrolytes, or any other? So the type of coagulant will affect the coagulation process. Then the forms of coagulant, the type of mixing, how we are mixing the coagulant in the water, the type of feeding, how we are feeding the coagulant to the water. Are we feeding it in a wet form or we are feeding it in dry form? That will affect the coagulation process. What is the pH value of water? What is the temperature of the water? What is the impurity load of water? How much impurity is present in water? These factors of water will also affect the coagulation process. And finally, the time of concentration, how much time coagulant is getting to trap the impurities inside water, that will also affect the coagulation process. The rate of formation of floc is influenced more on the temperature than on the amount of coagulant. thorough mixing of the coagulating chemical with the water is accomplished by a short period of violent agitation. This is then followed by a longer period of conditioning involving gentle stirring, during which the desired flock is formed. So this flock, after the formation, goes down at the bottom of the tank and it takes all the impurities with it to the bottom of the tank. So far we have studied that when coagulant is dissolved in water and thoroughly mixed in it, a thick gelatinous precipitate known as flock is formed. The aluminium and ferric ions of the flock contains positive charge. Hence, they attract the negatively charged colloidal particles of clay, turbidity and color, and thus helps in the removal of these impurities from water. Now we will have a look at the most commonly used coagulants. The most commonly used type of coagulant is aluminum sulfate. It is also known as alum. Its chemical formula is Al2SO4 by 3 18H2O. Next type of coagulant is chlorinated copperas, which contains ferric sulfate Fe2SO4 by 3 and ferric chloride FeCl3. Third type of coagulant is the ferrous sulfate, commonly known as copperas. Its chemical formula is FeSO4 7H2O. Fourth type of coagulant is sodium aluminate Na2Al2O4. Next is magnesium carbonate MgCO3, and last type of coagulant is polyelectrolytes. We will now have a look at each one of these type in detail. Alum or aluminium sulfate is the most common and universal coagulant used in waterwork. Its chemical composition is Al2SO4 by 3 18H2O, which we saw in the previous slide. Alum is found to be effective when pH of water ranges between 6.5 to 8.5. Its dosage depends upon turbidity, color, taste, pH value and temperature of water. The dose of alum varies between the range of 10 to 30 milligrams per liter of water. Alum is preferred over other coagulants because it reduces taste and odor in addition to turbidity in water. It is cheap and the flock formed is quite tough to be broken easily. It produces crystal clear water. Because of all these advantages, alum is widely used as a coagulant. Alum requires the presence of alkalinity in water to form the flocks. Many waters have bicarbonate alkalinity naturally in them. When dissolved in water, aluminium sulfate tends to hydrolyze into aluminium hydroxide, as is evident from the following reaction, where Al2SO4 by 3 18H2O plus thrice CaHCO3 by 2 gives twice AlOH by 3, which is aluminium hydroxide, plus thrice CaSO4 plus 18H2O plus 6 CO2. The aluminium hydroxide formed in the above reaction is insoluble in water and is therefore a flock. There are two undesirable outcomes of this reaction. Number one is the formation of permanent hardness by calcium sulfate, and number second is formation of carbon dioxide, which is corrosive to metals. If natural alkalinity in water is insufficient to react with alum, lime is also added to water. The lime CaO unites with water to form calcium hydroxide CaOH by 2 or hydrated lime, which reacts with alum as follows: Al2SO4 by 3 18H2O plus thrice CaOH by 2, that is calcium hydroxide, gives twice AlOH by 3 plus thrice CaSO4 plus 18H2O. Sometimes sodium carbonate, which is also known as soda ash, is added to form alkalinity into the water. The resulting reaction is Al2SO4 by 3 18H2O plus thrice Na2CO2 gives twice AlOH by 3 plus thrice Na2SO4 plus thrice CO2 plus 18H2O. Though soda ash does not cause hardness, but it is expensive than lime and is therefore used in lesser quantity. So we can summarize the advantages and disadvantages of alum. The advantages includes it reduces taste and odor in addition to turbidity. It is cheap and easily available. Its working is very simple. It doesn't require skilled labor. The water produced after the coagulation process through alum is crystal clear. The flocks prepared are heavier and better, and those are quite tough, which cannot be easily broken down. So these are the advantages of alum. Though alum has many advantages, there are few disadvantages as well. The very first disadvantage is that it is very difficult to dewater the sludge which is produced after the coagulation process when alum is used as a coagulant. This sludge is not very easy to dispose of. Alum imparts permanent hardness to water. This is a very big disadvantage. It produces CO2 and cause corrosion. So alum gives some corrosive properties to water. The last disadvantage is that the effective pH range of alum is very small, that is 6.5 to 8.5. So we have to maintain this pH range if we want maximum efficiency of alum. So these are the disadvantages of alum. Next type of coagulant is chlorinated cuprous. So hydrated ferrous sulfate, which is FeSO4 7H2O, is traditionally referred to as cuprous. It has too high a solubility to act as a satisfactory coagulant at the usual pH range. It is therefore first oxidized to ferric sulfate, which is Fe2SO4 by 3, and ferric chloride, which is FeCl3, by mixing its solution with a feed from a chlorinator before administering to the bulk of raw water. The resulting reactions are 6 FeSO4 7H2O plus thrice Cl2 gives twice Fe2SO4 by 3, this is ferric sulfate, plus twice FeCl3, this is ferric chloride, plus 7H2O. The ferric sulfate and ferric chloride produced instantaneously are called chlorinated cuprous. Both of these are immediately available for the formation of ferric hydroxide flock. The resulting reactions are Fe2SO4 by 3 plus thrice CaOH by 2, it gives thrice CaSO4 plus twice FeOH by 3, and second reaction is twice FeCl3 plus thrice CaOH by 2 gives thrice CaCl2 plus twice FeOH by 3. Chlorinated cuprous is effective in removing color also. The theoretical ratio of chlorine to cuprous is 1 to 7.8. When used independently, ferric chloride is effective over a pH range of 3.5 to 6.5 and above 8.5. At higher pH, it is successful in removing manganese. Ferric sulfate, when used independently, is effective over a pH range of 4 to 7 and above 9. However, it requires special solution arrangements because of its low solubility in cold water. The next type of coagulant is ferrous sulfate. Ferrous sulfate or cuprous can react with natural calcium bicarbonate alkalinity in water, but this is very much a delayed one process. Hence, lime is used with ferrous sulfate. The following reaction takes place when lime is used with ferrous sulfate. FeSO4 7H2O plus CaOH by 2 gives FeOH by 2 plus CaSO4 plus 7H2O. The ferrous hydroxide FeOH by 2 thus formed, though an efficient flock, is soon oxidized by dissolved oxygen in water and ferric hydroxide is formed. So the reaction is 4FeOH by 2 plus O2 plus twice H2O gives 4FeOH by 3. The ferric hydroxide is a satisfactory gelatinous flock which is heavier than the one which is formed by alum. The effective pH range for this coagulant is 8.5 and above. Ferrous sulfate is unsuitable for the treatment of soft colored waters because they are best coagulated at a pH range below 7. Hence, for them, ferrous sulfate is not used. The next type of coagulant is sodium aluminate. Sodium aluminate, which is Na2Al2O4, is alkaline in reaction and is used very much less often than alum because of its cost. It reacts with the salts of calcium and magnesium and the following reaction takes place. Na2Al2O4 plus CaHCO3 by 2 gives CaAl2O4 plus Na2CO3 plus CO2 plus H2O. This is first salt. Next salt, Na2Al2O4 plus CaCl2 gives CaAl2O4 plus twice NaCl. And third one is Na2Al2O4 plus CaSO4 gives CaAl2O4 plus Na2SO4. The coagulant sodium aluminate removes both temporary as well as permanent hardness and is effective for a pH range of 6 to 8.5, which is naturally available in water. Moving on to the next type of coagulant, that is magnesium carbonate. When magnesium carbonate and lime are dissolved in water, magnesium hydroxide and calcium carbonate are formed as under, that is MgCO3 plus CaOH by 2 gives MgOH by 2, that is magnesium hydroxide, plus CaCO3, that is calcium carbonate. Both magnesium hydroxide and calcium carbonate are soluble in water, resulting in the formation of sludge which is in a form of slurry. Due to this, it is not commonly used. However, it is useful in removing organic color, iron and manganese. Next type of coagulant is polyelectrolytes. Polyelectrolytes are high molecular weight water soluble polymers. They are classified as anionic, cationic and non-ionic depending upon the charge which they carry. Cationic polyelectrolytes can be used independently as effective coagulants, while others are used as coagulant aids along with alum. The amount of a polyelectrolyte used is very small in relation to the amount of the primary coagulant. The use of a polyelectrolyte not only broadens the pH range over which satisfactory flocculation could occur, but may also reduce the quantity of primary coagulant required. The usual dosage of polyelectrolytes is 1 ppm. Some iron salt compounds can also be used as a coagulant. We will first see their advantages and then we will see their disadvantages. So the iron salts produced heavy flocks, due to which more suspended matter is removed than with alum. The time required for flock formation, conditioning and settling using iron salts is much less, hence retention time is reduced. The coagulation with iron salts is effective over a wider range of pH, which ranges from 3.8 to 10 on pH scale. The cost of treatment using iron compounds is usually very low. The use of iron salts removes hydrogen sulfide, taste and odor, and there is a decreased tendency towards the formation of mud balls with iron salts as compared with alum. Under some conditions, iron coagulants are found to be more economical than alum. These iron compound salts are widely used for industrial purposes but very less often for potable purposes. So these are the advantages of iron salt compounds. Now we will see their disadvantages. The iron salt ferrous fluoride introduces fluorine in water supply, which can cause mortal teeth if drank for a longer period of time. The use of ferrous sulfate produces ferric carbonate, which is having no coagulant value. Some of the iron flocks may pass the filter by stimulating growth of iron bacteria. These iron salts promotes the growth of iron bacteria and adversely affects the rapid sand filter processes. The iron salts causes staining and hence again promote the growth of iron bacteria in the distribution system. The iron salts imparts corrosiveness to water, which is even more than that imparted by alum. The handling of iron salts requires more skilled labor, whereas no skill is required in handling alum. Because of these disadvantages, iron salts are used lesser in quantity as compared to alum, and hence alum is used most widely. So now we will see what are coagulant aids. Certain chemicals which are added in water to increase the rate of reaction, to reduce the coagulant dose, to extend the optimum pH range, and to produce faster and tougher flocks are known as coagulant aids. So these chemicals are added into the water and they help in more efficient coagulation process. So these chemicals include activated silica, lime, soda ash, some polyelectrolytes and bentonite clay. So these are the coagulant aids which helps to increase the rate of reaction, to reduce the coagulant dose, to extend the optimum pH range and to produce faster and tougher flocks, which in turn increases the efficiency of coagulation process overall. With this, we have reached to end of today's part A topic. In the next lecture, we will continue this topic and cover different aspects of coagulation and flocculation in part B. Till then, have a nice time and study well. Thank you very much.